You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. We have a show that is serious fun today. For example, how would you like to sit down at Dolly Madison's dinner table and have a conversation with Thomas Jefferson? Well, my first guest will tell you how you can actually do that at the New York Historical Society's new Center for Women's History. And my second guest, well, we're spotlighting another of the activist groups that have come into wonderful creation since the Trump regime, this one called wallofus.org. He promised a wall, he will be stopped by a wall of us. 4 concrete acts of resistance delivered to your inbox each week. Doesn't that sound like good, serious fun? Well, first, though, we have to go inside the headlines. Let's start with media news this week. Of course, Trump tweeting a video of himself body slamming and punching out a doctored image of CNN had his defenders actually trying to claim that either this was a joke or, in any event, it certainly would not be an incitement to violence against journalists. Why does a reporter have to die in the line of duty, which at this rate will happen, for the nation to take seriously these vicious attacks on our free press? The 37-year-old Vietnamese blogger Nguyen Ngoc Nhu Kin, known by her blogging pseudonym Mother Mushroom, has been convicted of, quote, conducting anti-state propaganda, and she's been sentenced to 10 years in prison. Her blog frequently criticized the government and covered issues like land confiscation, freedom of speech, and police brutality. Her now famous tagline is, "Who will speak if you don't?" Egypt has blocked over 100 local and international websites, including HuffPost and Medium. The government says such websites are publishing false information and supporting terrorism. Sound familiar? Greta Van Susteren is out at MSNBC after 6 months. The former Fox News host was part of MSNBC's flirtation with moving to the right, hoping to suck up some Fox viewers. Trump tweeted that she was fired for being sympathetic to him, but MSNBC said the decision was based solely on ratings. Van Susteren was singularly, notoriously unsupportive of the women who dared come forward regarding sexual harassment at Fox News. Speaking of which, the sexual harassment scandals that engulfed Fox News are now joined by allegations of an offensive workplace culture at Fox Sports, which has abruptly fired its controversial head of sports programming, Jamie Horowitz, after allegations of sexual harassment in the sports division by women who included prominent on-air personalities as well as show producers. The nonprofit media watchdog group Common Sense Media is applying a new test to its ratings of movies and television shows. At its website, commonsensemedia.org, a symbol with the phrase positive gender representations will now appear with a film or TV show, meaning that reviewers judged it to encourage girls and boys beyond traditional gender roles. Some ratings are clear-cut, as they featured women and men in stereotype-breaking roles like Wonder Woman, Hidden Figures, A League of Their Own. The reality TV show Master Chef Junior qualified for the seal because it counters the stereotype that cooking is for girls only. So do shows like Bones that feature girls as engineers, computer scientists, or forensic investigators. Then there are the more complex choices like the film Moonlight, which apparently will be given the stamp of approval for 17-year-olds and up, despite depictions of violence, drugs, and sex, because the raters felt the film prompted important discussions about what it means to be an African-American young man. Here's a general news item that should be cause for celebration, but these days is a red alert. The number of American women giving birth has been declining for years and has now hit a historic low. If the trend continues, and experts disagree on whether it will, some claim the country could face economic and cultural turmoil. According to provisional 2016 population data released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the number of births fell 1% from a year earlier, bringing the general fertility rate to 62.0 births per 1,000 women ages 15 to 44. Now, the trend is being driven by a decline in birth rates for teens and 20-somethings, which you would think is cause for champagne. The birth rate for women in their 30s and 40s did increase, but not enough to make up for the lower numbers in their younger sisters. The red alert comes in because these statistics will be weaponized by the religious right against women's right to contraception and abortion. But here's an interesting way to counter that. Since refugees and immigrants tend to have higher birth rates, spreading a welcome mat for them would compensate nicely. France and women lost a great one last week. Simone Weil died at age 89 and will be buried in the Pantheon in Paris, only the fifth woman among nearly 80 revered figures of France who are interred there. She was deported during World War II but survived Nazi death camps, later became French Minister of Health, and was elected the first woman president of the European Parliament. But she was best known for championing a 1975 law that legalized abortion and today is still referred to as the Weil Law. In other important health news, more breast cancers have been found at earlier and potentially more treatable stages since implementation of the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, or Obamacare. The study in cancer epidemiology found that, quote, the same woman who pre-ACA would have been diagnosed at stage 2 was diagnosed at stage 1 after ACA. More evidence is coming out every day to show that the ACA has been having a highly positive effect on public health. Jana Zweiman, co-founder of Pussy Hat Project, that effort to craft simple pink pussy hats that became such a viral success in the lead-up to the Women's March and became a symbol of the resistance for women. Well, she has a new project, welcomeblanket.org. It reimagines the length of Donald Trump's proposed U.S.-Mexico border wall as thousands of welcome blankets for refugees. The goal is to knit blankets from 2,000 miles of yarn, the projected length of the border wall, over the next 3 months. Each knitter is encouraged to include a note sharing her or his family's immigration story and words of welcome for refugee families. Participants need to craft 3,200 blankets collectively to reach about 2,000 miles. There's a step-by-step photo and text tutorial for participants to follow on the website, welcomeblanket.org. Starting in July, blankets and notes will be displayed on a rolling basis in the Smart Museum of Art at the University of Chicago. Participants must send their blankets to the museum by August 20th. Once the show closes at the end of that month, the individual blankets will be distributed to refugee resettlement organizations to be used by refugee families in the United States. The 2017 U.S. Women's Open Golf Tournament, held from the 10th of this month, tomorrow, to the 16th at Donald Trump's golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, is going to face lively demonstrations. Despite Trump's continuing insults to women, both personally and in his political policies, and despite petitions and even some senators urging the PGA to move the tournament, PGA of America insisted on staying at Trump Bedminster, as did the United States Golf Association and the LPGA, ladies, Professional Golf Association, ladies. More about this later in the program, but if you're in the metropolitan area, have a bit of time on your hands during the coming week and enjoy raising good hell picketing. Well, just saying. We have to take a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, but I'll be right back with that conversation at Dolly Madison's dinner table and other delicious stuff. So don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. Louise Mirrer has been a guest on this program before. She is the president and CEO of the New York Historical Society. She joined as president and CEO in June 2004, and wow, under her guidance it's really blossomed, including a major renovation of its landmark building on Central Park West in New York City. But the kinds of groundbreaking exhibitions that she has brought to the society include slavery in New York, slavery in the Civil War, a new light on Tiffany, how the Tiffany lamps and Tiffany glass were really made by women, the Tiffany girls, an exhibit on the French founding father, Lafayette's return to the Americas, and Grant and Lee in War and Peace, and lots of other really unusual and much needed and in fact very timely exhibitions. And now the long-awaited new Center for Women's History at the Society, the first of its kind in the nation, inside the walls of a major museum, reveals untold stories of women who've shaped and who continue to shape the American experience. And the exhibit that we talked about as a dream in the future when she was last on the program has now come to be a reality, and it's wonderful. So here is Louise Mirrer. Louise, welcome back to Women's Media Center Live. Good to have you back.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be back.
Now, when you last were on the program, this amazing Center for Women's History, the New York Historical Society's Center for Women's History, was still in the planning. You were doing all the renovations to the fourth floor of the edifice, and it was. I remember thinking, it's so long away. How can I wait? How can I wait? And here we are. It's here. It's open. Tell us about it, and congratulations, by the way.
Thanks so much. Indeed, we are open, and the new Center for Women's History at the New York Historical Society has many parts and pieces to it, so it's a very, very exciting venture. For one thing, we have now a gallery space which is dedicated on a permanent basis to telling the story of women's history, and we have chosen to begin pretty much at the beginning with an exhibition that we call Saving Washington, a very appealing title right now, but in fact, can we do it?
Can we do it again? Yeah.
But in fact, Washington needed to be saved in myriad ways almost from the start, and it was a woman, a first lady, who did so much. Really, it would be many generations before another woman in the White House equaled her in significance. And that first lady was Dolly Madison, who we call the exhibition Saving Washington because literally in 1812, when the British burned the city of Washington down, they included the White House in their burning. And Dolly Madison had just finished decorating the White House and turning it into, decorating sounds trivial, but it was Dolly Madison who really understood that the young nation needed to have a capital city that would be taken seriously by the international community. And so this was a terrible blow. And among the objects that were really at risk in the White House as the British arrived was a portrait, very large portrait of George Washington. And it wasn't a great portrait, but she understood, just as she understood the symbolic importance of the White House and of Washington as a capital city in an international context, she understood the important symbolism of George Washington for the United States, especially as against the British. So that was an immediate target of her activity when she saw the British coming. And
she lugged the portrait out of the White House.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story, but I think most people don't really understand how intent she was on doing the work that the Constitution set forth in a very abstract way.
Right.
We the people.
Most of those early first ladies were I'm going to create a word here. So frivolitized.
Right.
They were dismissed as, and there was. I think it's important to remember there was chaos in Washington at this point. This was a baby nation of a frontier rough men, and
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and Washington really had nothing to recommend it at the time. Physically, it was a swamp, and so. And yes, indeed, most people think of Dolly Madison in relation to ice cream or donuts. I'm told there's some donut that's named a Dolly Madison donut, though I've never had one. But Dolly Madison was certainly an ice cream brand that was well known, and she did serve ice cream at her parties in the White House. But her parties in the White House were not frou-frou kinds of parties. They were parties. She would advertise the coming of a party in the Washington media and the newspapers, and invite everyone. Anyone could come, and that was a deliberate effort to have all the different kinds of people who were part of the young United States rub shoulders with one another. They were all confined to the same room. These parties were called squeezes, and of course, there was no guessing what happened at them. People were squeezed together into the spaces of the White House. They were forced, the elites from Boston and the elites from Philadelphia were forced to rub shoulders with people from rural parts of the young United States.
And it's a small house. I mean, anybody who's actually been to the White House can tell you that it, and I'm sure you have, I have, and it's an 18th century house, so the rooms themselves are, very small. It's not like there's these cavernous ballrooms anywhere. Even the biggest rooms are, by modern standards, fairly small rooms. Yeah, go on.
Absolutely.
Go on.
And that was all. That was all in the service of making the Constitution, making that lovely phrase, "we the people," work on the ground.
Yes.
Because it was only an abstraction, and in fact, it was. It would have continued to be an abstraction if it had not been for Dolly Madison and other women of the early American Republic who really worked to make it real. And that's a story. That's a story that just isn't known. It isn't appreciated. It isn't well understood. We're not making something up out of whole cloth. These women did not have independent agency in ways that we would think of women's power today. But they did manage to get things done, and they managed to get things done on their own, in their own terms, on their own terms. But of consequence to all of us, we're living in a nation today that was largely created thanks to the work of men and women, and so that's our first story. But every 4 or 5 months, we'll be telling a different one. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about. In fact, Dolly Madison did us the great favor of having lived a very long life. 1848. Seneca Falls, Dolly Madison, that's the last year of her life. So we're able, we're able to tell a story that goes, really goes right up to a period, and we show this in the exhibition, right up to a period when women are starting to have their own agency. It's not Dolly Madison's generation anymore. And those women are signing petitions, and we have some of them in the exhibition in the final gallery, signing petitions opposing slavery. They're signing petitions opposing the mistreatment of Native Americans. So women are starting to have agency. They're advocating the right to vote, though they wouldn't get it for a good long time to come.
Right.
And we'll pick up that story in November, next November, with an exhibition on the suffragist movement.
And goody. And tell us also about the feature of the dining table, because that sounds so wonderful and creative.
So we wanted everyone to really appreciate to the fullest possible extent this story. And one strategy that we used in the exhibition was the recreation of Dolly Madison's dining table. We also have another dining table that Hamilton and Burr might have sat at. So there are actually two tables, but the larger one is Dolly Madison's. And it's a virtual game, and the game invites you to participate in conversations with your fellow diners across the table. So you make decisions about how you would respond to a particular topic, and then you use your hand to swipe it across to another member of the team. And it's a lot of fun, of course, but it also shows you how the strategies used by women tended to be strategies that would draw people into a consensus rather than a duel. So, you sit down at the Hamilton Burr table, you may end up dead because you get into get into an argument, and there's no way of getting out of that kind of a disagreement than violence.
Talk about polarization
for many of the men. Yeah, so it was serious business to get into an argument in those days. So it was great to recognize these women who had alternative strategies.
Yeah, in terms of getting people to talk to one another, to find common ground.
Exactly. And that was the whole thing.
They fed them and they got them a little tipsy, and then they said, "Now, can we talk? Let's talk about this."
Right. And Dolly Madison was she is known for having been a superb hostess, but the truth is that men and women sat together at her dining table. Thomas Jefferson had stag dinner parties.
Yeah, I know.
He would invite an all-male group of people to sit down. So that was also a great innovation of hers in the White House, and so that's our kickoff exhibition. But there's much else to see and do in our new spaces. So we have, for example, we were given the amazing archive of Billie Jean King.
Yes, she told me. She told me, and she's excited, and I bet you are.
Very exciting. So we're able to tell her story, and her story is so much about equality, about quest for equality of all kinds.
She's always been about women's rights and civil rights more than even about sport. I mean,
that's right. Right. So she's she's a celebrity figure who really used her celebrity, has used her celebrity to do work on behalf of all of us.
That's right.
So we're able to explore that and also to celebrate that. And we also have created an absolutely dazzling new gallery for our Tiffany lamps, but the backdrop is the story of the women who actually designed the lamps but who were not credited for their work. And part of that story is really very much a New York story, where New York at the turn of the last century, around last couple of decades of the 19th century, first couple of decades of the 20th, New York was really virtually only the only place on the face of the earth where women had real opportunities, and some of those opportunities were quite good. And for the Tiffany girls, the opportunity to work and actually be well paid as women was extraordinary. And so we have the chance to tell that story. The women, of course, as other women did at the time when they got engaged, they left. They had to leave employment. But in the meantime, they did all sorts. They participated in social life in New York. They went to the theater. They learned to ride bicycles. It's really a wonderful story of women from all other parts of the country and other parts of the world who are tasting independence and the power that earning a salary gives them for the first time.
What a gift you're giving, not only to the people of New York, of whom I proudly, braggartly am one, but to people from the entire country and from the whole world. Louise, tell the address of the Historical Society for our listeners and the website.
New York Historical Society is located at 170 Central Park West. We are between 76th Street and 77th Street in Manhattan. And you can just go www.nyhistory.org and you can surf our marvelous website and find out all sorts of things.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for what you do and the vision of this remarkable permanent exhibit, and that will also change its features over time. It's a real gift to knowledge and pride in our own history. And I know I can only imagine the enormous work that it's taken, but it is being wildly well received, and I personally am very grateful as a New Yorker, as a woman, as a feminist, as an American for it. And thanks for being with us today.
And thank you. A pleasure as always talking with you.
And now it's time for the Surrealism Corner. This month, the city of Salem, Massachusetts, will dedicate the recently confirmed site of religious fanaticist executions by hanging of 20 men and women, most of them devout Christians, none of them actual members of the old matriarchal religions, but all of them accused of witchcraft. Whoever was accused was tortured until confession, stones crushing the rib cage, application of hot irons, then had to name other so-called Confederates, then was condemned. The accuser was awarded the property of the victim. Accusation equaled acquisition. This year, 2017, is the 325th anniversary of the Salem trials. Salem and Danvers, Massachusetts, the two sites of the tortures and trials, have apologized to the victims and their descendants and are now honoring them. Nice, but surreal. Sort of like the Catholic Church burning Joan of Orleans alive and then making her a saint. Or you assassinate Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and then you put them on United States stamps. When will this species learn not to make such brutal mistakes in the first place? Trump held a ceremony to sign an executive order bringing back the National Space Council, which surprised and baffled everyone, especially the astronauts in attendance. It's an advisory council that kick-started the first moon missions 60 years ago, but went dormant in the 1990s because, well, there's NASA now. Trump said now the council could lead us to Mars, adding, quote, "At some point in the future, we're going to look back and say, how did we do it without space?" Yeah, and how would we do it without NASA? Since no one from gravely defunded NASA headquarters came to this for-show-only event. Vice President Mike Pence, chairing the revived council, was there. Yep, the once Congressman Pence, who once chaired a Republican study group that recommended canceling NASA's space exploration program entirely. No moon, no Mars trips to save money. Trump noted that, quote, "Mike is very much into space," close quote. As an aside, can we send him there? At the signing, both Trump and Pence referred to the 3 American astronauts present, Alvin Drew, David Wolf, and, quote, "the second man on the moon, the legendary Buzz Aldrin," close quote. But neither one mentioned astronaut Sandy Magnus, although she was standing only 5 feet away, an omission about which the astronaut community was reportedly furious. Then there were Trump's comments when he departed from prepared text, comments that were a bit spaced out. For example, from the text he read, quote, "The human soul yearns for discovery," close quote. But then, whoops, an off-script ad-lib, quote, "Wouldn't that be nice? Can you believe that space is going to do that?" Close quote. That caused Buzz Aldrin to shoot Trump an unforgettable look. All this is pretty ironic, since Trump has not even named a NASA administrator who would sit on the council. Likewise for the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, which is now entirely unstaffed. As of June 30th, the last 3 employees, holdovers from the Obama administration, left. Anyway, back to Trump boldly going where everyone but him has avoided going before. When he opened the executive order to sign it, he announced proudly, quote, "I know what this is. Space," close quote. See, usually they have to tell him what it is he's signing. But he continued, quote, "This is infinity here. It could be infinity. We don't know, but it could be. It has to be something. But it could be infinity, right?" Close quote. You want surrealism? Check out YouTube just for the sight of Buzz Aldrin's face, please. While we're on science, think about 6 teenage girls trying to get robotics equipment through customs in Afghanistan. Think about them training and building a ball-sorting robot to compete in an international competition. Other teams received their raw materials way back in March, but theirs was held up for months due to concerns about terrorism. So these teen girl engineers improvised, building motorized machines from household materials in Afghanistan. They were preparing to compete in the first Global Challenge, an international robotics competition to be held in Washington, D.C. this month. Obama always loved those competitions. Young teams from around the world face off in an effort to engage people in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And these girls from Herat in western Afghanistan first had to persuade their families to let them go. No easy task. Then they made the 500-mile journey to the U.S. Embassy in Kabul to apply for their visas. Twice they did this, although that location was targeted by a deadly truck bomb. Now their visa applications have been denied. Trump's travel ban. One of the girls, 14-year-old Fatma, was quoted as saying, quote, "We want to show the world we can do it. We just need a chance," close quote. And on their competition page, first.global/nations/Afghanistan, the girls wrote, "We want to make a difference. And most breakthroughs in science, technology, and other industries normally start with the dream of a child to do something great. We want to be that child and pursue our dreams to make a difference in people's lives." Close quote. Apparently, such a hope is surreal. Then again, it looks very likely that after 80 years, the mystery of the disappearance of the great aviator Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan may finally be solved. It looks, too, as if the United States likely knew all along that their plane had been blown off course and that she died as a prisoner of the Japanese government during World War II. But that the United States didn't release that information because we were trying to heal relations with Japan once they'd been forced to surrender. After all, we had just done the unimaginable. We had initiated the nuclear age by dropping the most powerful weapon then known to humanity on Hiroshima and on Nagasaki. All of which is a different kind of surreal. But so is hope. Let's close the surrealism corner with Earhart's own words. She said, "Please know that I'm aware of the hazards. I want to do it because I want to do it. Women must try to do the impossible. When they fail, failure must be a challenge to others. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is mere tenacity." Time for another short pause here at Women's Media Center Live, but I'll be back in just a breath or two with a woman whose mission, and the mission of her new organization, is to make it simply irresistible for Americans to become active participants in our democracy. Good idea, huh? Well, stick around.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. My next guest, Amelia Miazad, is an Afghan-born American lawyer. She's an entrepreneur and she's an educator. And she's currently conducting research and developing curriculum on the role of the lawyer in advancing corporate social responsibility. God knows we need that. An initiative that she founded at Berkeley Law School. And she is a founding team member of the Wall of Us organization, who leads strategic vision and content development. To find out what that means, listen in. Here's Amelia Miazad. Amelia, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's my honor.
Regular listeners to the program know that I've been trying to spotlight the wonderful people, mostly I might say, almost all so far, women who have been spearheading this amazing grassroots uprising that was not formed top down. We've had people on from the woman who started Daily Action, the woman who started Grab Your Wallet, the woman of the team that began Indivisible, because I think that the work that they and you with Wall of Us are doing is the hope of the nation, is the hope of democracy, actually. So tell us about Wall of Us and how it got started.
Absolutely. Well, we started it several days after the election, and I'm glad that you're focusing on the resistance being led by women. I come from a very long line of strong and defiant women. I was born in Afghanistan, and we escaped when the Soviets invaded.
No.
And I really just understand and felt the threat of complacency the moment that Trump was elected president.
Yep.
And I also understand and appreciate the power of resistance. And we have a wonderful thing in this country called freedom of speech.
Yeah, good
and
idea.
The First Amendment.
Mm-hmm. Good concepts.
And so, it's our duty as Americans and as patriots to use that freedom of speech to protect our democracy. And the day after the election, I looked at my two daughters, ages 6 and 9, and decided that that's what we needed to do. So we started Wall of Us. There are two things we noticed. People wanted to act. People didn't know what to do.
Right.
The resistance is indeed beautiful. And I think that's because it's also been very joyful.
Yes.
There's been humor, there's been art, there's been poetry, and we've really tried to highlight that.
Right.
In our website.
I think your website is just drop dead gorgeous. I mean, it's wall-of-us.org, listeners. Wallofus.org, but it's got hyphens between the first and the second words. Wall-of-us.org. It's so beautiful.
The beauty and the joyfulness of activism is core to that. And Kara Ganter, one of my co-founders, is very committed to making the resistance beautiful and spends a tremendous amount of time curating the visuals on the site.
It really is stunning. And the shorthand is on the site, he promised a wall. He will be stopped by a wall of us. 4 concrete acts of resistance delivered to your inbox each week. Tell us about that.
Well, we wanted to take the concept of a wall, which is very powerful, and we wanted to show that, the only wall that he is going to get is a wall of us. So a wall will be built. It will be big. It will be beautiful, just like he said it would be. But it's going to be made of all of us, because really, he is best described, Donald Trump is best described as a traitor from within.
Yes.
He threatens everything that's great about America, everything that's great. Immigration, diversity, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, transparency, I could go on. And in that way, he unifies us as a wall against him.
Yes. I mean, somebody was saying to me recently, well, we have to thank him for that. He's unified. And I thought, at first I said yes, and then I thought about it, and I thought, well, Hell no, I'm not going to thank him for anything, number one. And number two, it was certainly not intentional. He didn't sit there thinking with his non-mind, where he has difficulty rubbing two cells together to get friction in his brain. But he certainly didn't think of that. And also, this is built on a foundation of, in the women's movement alone, not to speak of civil rights, not to speak of La Raza, not to speak of all the other movements, but in the women's movement alone, this is a foundation built on contemporary feminism of 50 years in this country. So when it happened, this burst on us, in a sense, people were ready, and they said no. And the stunning thing to me is, it's so thrilling, is that this resistance really is led by women.
Absolutely, and we've done surveys of our users. The majority of our subscribers, over 80%, are women.
Wow.
The majority of our doers are women. We're grateful to have Colleen Chen on our founding team. She's has deep expertise in data, and Nicole Nedich also helped build Code for America, and it's true when you look at the data and you look at the behavioral science behind it. This movement is inspiring to women. Women are our doers.
Wonderful. And you are coming up with actions as well as steering people as a sort of a clearinghouse of what other people are doing. Am I correct?
We are coming up with actions. We're a clearinghouse, but what we do is we take those actions that other longstanding policy groups have, and also new resistance groups have, and we frame them in ways that we believe are clear and inspire people to act. The language, the humor again in the language,
yes.
The punchiness. We're hoping that is that inspires action. So we don't, sort of cut and paste other groups'
right.
Actions.
Right.
We also are blessed to be in Berkeley and connected to academics at UC Berkeley as well as in the Bay Area. So we really spend a lot of time researching and vetting our actions.
That's fantastic. So you're solid data. That's just wonderful. You're doing one of your actions about the Ladies Professional Golf Association, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we want to use all of the strategies in our activism toolkit, and one strategy that is often overlooked is corporate activism. Companies are made up of people, and they're very responsive, as we've seen so much in this resistance, to consumers, employees, and stakeholders. And I really like the golf action, and it's because Trump really likes golf. And
he's got all these damn golf courses too, doesn't he?
He does, and the golf courses are hosting the U.S. Women's Open, one of them in July.
Mm-hmm. That's
golf course in
New Jersey.
In New Jersey, and that U.S. Women's Open is being sponsored by companies, and we would like to have our readers boycott those companies and also write to those companies and ask them not to support,
right.
The U.S. Women's Open, which is a champion of women for decades.
Have we tried to talk with any of the pro women golfers about boycotting? And
we have, and it has not gained a lot of traction.
I see. Oh, that's a shame. But the sponsors, yes. Who are the sponsors, Amelia? Do you have them? You know them off the top of your head? I'm sure they're on the website. People can go to the website, register, and get their email updates of suggestions of actions, and then they can write to and pressure those sponsors. Because we just recently saw it not too long ago in terms of O'Reilly and Fox, to put pressure on advertisers, and then the advertisers in turn leverage, because it's all about lining their damn pockets. That's the way in. It seems to really work.
It does work, and so I think I look at it a little bit differently. The corporations, we're seeing a movement with corporate responsibility, and corporations, yes, of course, they're responsive to customers and stakeholders and shareholders,
right.
But many of them want to do well by doing good,
right.
And I study that at Berkeley, and I'm doing research in that area, and so I know that many companies want to do the right thing and have done the right thing in response to this administration.
Yes.
And so yes, it's about the bottom line, but it also is about doing the right thing, and so we can put a little pressure on them to do the right thing.
That's true. I applaud you for that. It's called wall-of-us.org. We've been talking with Amelia Miazad, who was born in Afghanistan, but by God, you sure became a U.S. Force majeure. And I thank you and your colleagues for starting this. This is a major. You on the website you have bricks as you're building the wall of us, and it's a beautiful website to go to. The visuals alone are worth it. Not even getting into the activism, but that's where we aim to go. Thank you again, Amelia, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And it is time for one last brief pause here at Women's Media Center Live, but I will be right back. You can rely on it, with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again with some fighting words. The Kapor Center for Social Impact and the Harris Poll surveyed more than 2,000 people who left technology jobs in the last 3 years, and they've released a first-of-its-kind report called the Tech Leavers Study, analyzing the reasons tech workers leave their jobs. It's not surprising, but it is shocking. Basically, they've been driven out. The study found common threads of sexual harassment, stereotyping, and bigotry. 1 in 10 women in tech experiences unwanted sexual attention, and nearly 1 in 4 people of color faces stereotyping. The findings suggest that sexual harassment and unfairness are disproportionately high in the tech sector as compared to other industries, and that tech firms openly dedicated to disruption, as they put it, are rejecting labor standards while white male execs do little to fix systemic pay disparities, and they also ignore complaints about discrimination. Women of color in particular reported high rates of discrimination. 30% said they were passed over for a promotion, a rate significantly higher than for European American women. Unwanted sexual attention was reported at the rates almost twice as high as that of employees in other industries, and of those who said they faced sexual harassment, 57% said that was what contributed to their departure. LGBT tech workers were the most likely to experience bullying and hostility, with 25% citing rude or condescending behavior and 24% saying they'd been publicly humiliated. Previous studies suggested that women make up only 25% of the entire tech workforce to begin with, and that at the largest companies like Apple, Google, and Facebook, African American and Latino employees combined represent only 3 to 5% of employees. In the past few weeks, the New York Times has augmented the Tech Leavers study with a series of stories on sexual harassment and discrimination by venture capitalists in the cutthroat culture of tech startups. All this exposure is healthy, necessary, and overdue. The world of technology is the world of tomorrow. And the Internet has become, in effect, the public square, the agora, the center of political, spiritual, artistic, even athletic life. What does it mean, then, if female people and people whose derma cells are rich in melanin are, in effect, banned from the future, barred from the public square? How ironic that those young white males who flaunt themselves as radical disruptors of the status quo, futurists who sneer at what they would term primitive customs like purdah or the harem or the sequestration of menstruating women, while they themselves are doing the same thing. They're building their brave new world, just not for anyone who isn't male, white, and preferably young. After all, ancient Greece was the first democracy, except for women and slaves, who were thought to lack souls, who couldn't vote, and who were so busy keeping things tidy in a democracy that they had neither time nor permission to stroll in the agora, mulling philosophy. Are we now being offered a future version of that past? In this binary patriarchal world, the alternative choice to Silicon Valley's vision of tomorrow is equally ironic. I mean those regimes, always zealously religious, whose gaze is fixed firmly backward, longing for a past that will not come again, who want behavior to be controlled, repressed, and severed, who want their women, their other enslaved human beings to live as if we were in the 12th century, while their ruling clergy and devout armies use electric light, are addicted to their cell phones and their laptops, and travel on 21st century planes, drive 21st century cars, shoot 21st century guns. It's no use blaming the technology, which is blind to and innocent of the uses it will be put. As always, the questions are who controls and uses that technology, how it's applied and to what purposes, and why equality in this area is not simply a matter of equal rights for any single group, even though, frankly, that should be sufficient cause. But even though it is not a single group excluded, but rather 98% of the human population. Who defines the future? That's what's really at stake. We dare not forget that there are more of us than of those who think they can bar the gates. And we cannot give 1 millimeter in the fight to be visible, equal, knowledgeable, and powerful in the technology that builds the future, and in the Internet that is the public square in the information age. I think of all the people who are not male and not white and not straight, and the smaller but growing number of people who, although male and white and straight, stand with us because they realize that if there is to be a future, we're it. I think of the teenage girl engineers in Afghanistan, barred from computing and competing, but still dreaming that they can change the world. And I think of Simone Weil and of Amelia Earhart, who did change it. So history shows that we have already decided to act. The rest is mere tenacity. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and remember to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag #FightingWords. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com for the show plus the archive of all our previous episodes, and at iTunes Worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. And you can check out my own website and blog at robinmorgan.net and find me on Facebook and Twitter, too. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, and our founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us, and don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.